Is Texas heading for a housing crash that could make 2008 look tame? Across the Lone Star State, oil boom towns are quietly collapsing while insurance costs triple overnight, making mortgage payments seem cheap by comparison. From Odessa's abandoned subdivisions to suburban havens you'd never suspect, 10 Texas cities are flashing the same warning signs that preceded America's last housing disaster. Only this time, the fundamentals might be even worse. Which communities are watching home values vanish and entire neighborhoods empty out in 25's unfolding crisis? Let's start with the oil patch, where Odessa's American dream is turning into a financial nightmare. Odessa was supposed to be different this time. When oil prices surged in the early 2020s, everyone thought the Permian Basin had finally learned from past boom-bust cycles. New homes sprouted across the desert landscape. Young families flocked in for six-figure roughneck jobs, and real estate agents couldn't keep up with demand. But in 20, those dreams are crumbling faster than a West Texas dust storm. The numbers tell a brutal story. Median home prices have plummeted from $185,000 in 22 to just $162,000 today, wiping out nearly $25,000 in equity for thousands of homeowners. That's a 12.4% drop in just 3 years. But the real devastation lies beneath those averages. Energy sector layoffs have eliminated over 15% of local jobs since late 2023, leaving entire subdivisions near the oil fields looking like ghost towns with for sale signs collecting tumbleweeds. Walk through neighborhoods like Maple Ridge or Sunset Acres, and you'll see the human cost. Foreclosure rates have spiked 45% year over year as families who bought at the peak struggle to make payments on homes now worth less than their mortgages. Some subdivisions have occupancy rates below 60%, with abandoned houses sitting next to families desperately trying to sell before values drop further. The most telling sign? New construction has ground to a halt, with builders walking away from half-finished projects rather than complete homes nobody can afford to buy. But Odessa isn't alone in this energy-driven collapse. Just 30 miles north, Midland thought it could ride out the storm better than its neighbor. After all, this was the city that housed corporate headquarters, not just oil rigs. The gleaming office towers downtown were supposed to insulate Midland from the worst of any downturn. But in Twavy, those towers are looking awfully empty, and the housing market is hemorrhaging just as badly as Odessa's. Home values are falling forward year over year, a pace that's accelerating as major energy companies quietly relocate operations to Houston or Dallas. When ExxonMobil and Chevron start moving regional offices, you know the foundation is cracking. The corporate exodus isn't just about a few executives packing up. It's entire departments disappearing, taking middle management salaries that once supported Midland's upscale neighborhoods. The rental market tells an even grimmer story. Vacancy rates have shot up to 25%, with luxury apartment complexes offering 2 months free rent just to fill units. Property managers who once had waiting lists are now slashing rents by $300 to $500 monthly, desperately trying to keep buildings from going completely dark. Drive through developments like Polo Fields or Trinity Heights, and you'll spot the construction equipment sitting idle. Multiple new home projects have been halted mid-development, leaving concrete foundations exposed to the elements in partially framed houses that may never see completion. Builders are cutting losses rather than finishing homes in a market where buyers have vanished. What's troubling is how this energy sector collapse is spreading beyond traditional oil towns, hitting communities that thought they were safely diversified from the boom-bust cycle. Beaumont's troubles run deeper than just economic shifts. This Gulf Coast city is getting hammered by a perfect storm of industrial decline and climate reality that's making home ownership nearly impossible for working families. When your annual insurance premium hits $8,000 or more, you're essentially paying 2 mortgages just to keep a roof over your head. The numbers are staggering. Hurricane insurance costs have tripled since 2022, with many homeowners now paying more for coverage than they do for their actual mortgage payments. That's not sustainable math for a city where the median household income hovers around $45,000. The result? A population exodus that's accelerating every month, with families fleeing to inland areas where insurance won't bankrupt them. Chemical plant layoffs have devastated the local economy, affecting over 3,000 families since late 2023. When Motiva and other major refineries downsize operations, The ripple effects hit everyone from engineers to cafeteria workers. These aren't minimum wage jobs disappearing. These are $70,000 to $100,000 positions that supported entire neighborhoods. Housing inventory tells the brutal truth. Homes are sitting on the market for 90-plus days, with many sellers eventually giving up and converting to rentals or simply walking away. Real estate agents report showing houses to families who love the property but can't stomach the insurance quotes. One agent told local media she's had buyers literally walk out of closings after seeing their final insurance costs. The insurance nightmare isn't confined to industrial cities along the coast. It's creeping inland, hitting suburban communities that never expected to face these kinds of financial pressures. Victoria once epitomized small-town Texas charm, where affordable homes and tight-knit communities attracted young families looking to escape big city pressures. But rising costs aren't just a coastal problem anymore. This agricultural hub is watching its foundation erode as the very families that built its character pack up and leave for cheaper pastures. The demographic shift is stark and telling. Victoria's median age has climbed from 35.2 in 2020 to 38.7 in 2024, as young adults flee rising living costs and limited job opportunities. When your city starts graying this fast, it signals a community in decline. Home prices have dropped 8.5% since their 2022 peak. But that's not attracting new buyers. It's just reflecting reduced demand from a shrinking population. School enrollment tells the real story. The Victoria Independent School District has lost over 400 students in the past 2 years, forcing budget cuts and teacher layoffs. Empty classrooms mean empty neighborhoods, and empty neighborhoods mean falling property values. It's a cycle that feeds on itself. Drive down Main Street and you'll see the economic reality. Local businesses that survived generations are closing permanently, with owners citing everything from higher insurance costs to reduced foot traffic. The hardware store that's been family-owned since 1952? Gone. The bakery that supplied birthday cakes for 3 decades? Shuttered last month. Victoria's struggles reflect broader challenges hitting rural Texas communities. But these same economic pressures are now reaching into suburban markets that once seemed insulated from small-town decline. Port Arthur faces a triple threat that's making home ownership virtually impossible for most families. Environmental concerns, industrial decline, and climate insurance costs have created a housing market death spiral that shows no signs of stopping. When flood insurance alone costs more than many people's rent, you know the market fundamentals have broken down completely. Flood insurance mandates are pricing out entire generations of potential buyers. Properties in high-risk zones now require annual premiums ranging from $3,500 to $7,000, and that's on top of regular homeowners insurance. For a city where the median household income sits around $38,000, these costs represent an impossible barrier to homeownership. The industrial backbone is crumbling too. Major refineries have downsized operations significantly, with Motiva alone cutting over 1,200 positions since 2023. These weren't entry-level jobs. They were skilled positions paying $60,000 to $85,000 annually that supported families and local businesses throughout the region. Housing prices reflect this economic reality. Homes are selling below 2019 prices, with some properties moving for less than they cost 6 years ago. The pending sales collapse rate has reached 35%, meaning more than 1 in 3 purchase agreements fall through before closing, usually due to insurance sticker shock or financing problems. Real estate agents report showing houses to families who qualify for mortgages but can't afford the total cost of ownership once insurance requirements are factored in. The environmental and economic challenges plaguing Port Arthur aren't staying confined to the Gulf Coast. They're creating ripple effects that reach far inland. Huntsville built its economy around 2 pillars that seemed unshakable: the state prison system and Sam Houston State University. For decades, government paychecks and steady student enrollment created a stable housing market that weathered most economic storms. But when state budget axes start swinging and enrollment numbers tumble, even the most secure-seeming communities can crumble fast. State job cuts have eliminated over 1,200 positions across the Texas Department of Criminal Justice facilities in the area since late 2023. These weren't just guard positions. They included administrative staff, maintenance workers, and supervisory roles that paid $45,000 to $65,000 annually. When that many steady paychecks disappear from a small city, the ripple effects hit every corner of the local economy. Sam Houston State University compounds the problem with declining enrollment that's dropped 12% over 2 years. Fewer students mean less demand for rental housing, creating an oversaturated market where landlords are slashing rents just to fill units. Some apartment complexes near campus are offering 3 months free rent, a desperate move that signals serious trouble. The new graduate exodus tells an even more troubling story. Fresh college graduates who might have stayed in Huntsville for entry-level government jobs are now leaving immediately after graduation, heading to Austin, Houston, or Dallas, where opportunities still exist. This brain drain leaves behind an aging population with limited economic prospects. What's happening in Huntsville isn't unique to prison towns. Government-dependent economies across Texas are discovering just how vulnerable they are when budget priorities shift in public sector employment contracts. Palestine represents a different kind of economic erosion that's quietly hollowing out East Texas communities. This isn't about sudden plant closures or dramatic layoffs. It's about the slow strangulation of agricultural economies as family farms disappear and corporate consolidation eliminates local employment opportunities that sustain generations. Farm consolidation has devastated local job markets, with small family operations selling out to agribusiness giants that use automation and outside contractors. The result? Hundreds of agricultural jobs that once supported Palestine families have simply vanished. When the John Deere dealership closes and the feed store shutters, you know the agricultural backbone is broken. The demographic reality is stark. Palestine's median age has climbed to 42.1 as younger residents flee for opportunities elsewhere, leaving behind an aging population with limited home buying power. Who's going to purchase a 3-bedroom house when most potential buyers are on fixed incomes or approaching retirement? Homes are sitting vacant for 6 months or longer, with some neighborhoods showing occupancy rates below 70%. Property tax assessments have dropped for the first time in decades, reflecting the harsh reality that local officials can no longer pretend property values are stable. When tax rolls shrink, it signals a community in genuine decline. Drive through Palestine's residential areas, and you'll see the pattern everywhere: faded for sale signs, overgrown yards, and houses that clearly haven't been occupied in months. The agricultural economy that once supported thriving neighborhoods has withered, and the demographic challenges aren't limited to rural farming communities anymore. Marshall's story hits differently because this was supposed to be one of East Texas's success stories. With its beautifully preserved historic district and reputation as a cultural hub, Marshall seemed positioned to weather economic storms better than most small cities. But when traditional manufacturing evaporates and young professionals abandon ship, even the most charming communities can't escape the gravitational pull of economic decline. Factory closures have eliminated over 800 jobs since 2023, with major manufacturers relocating operations to Mexico or automating production lines. These weren't minimum wage positions, they were skilled manufacturing jobs paying $50,000 to $70,000 annually that supported entire neighborhoods. When that payroll disappears, the local economy loses its foundation. The historic district, once Marshall's crown jewel, now showcases a different kind of history: economic abandonment. Victorian homes that attracted buyers from Dallas and Shreveport and are sitting unsold for months, with some sellers dropping asking prices by $40,000 or more. The very character that made Marshall special can't overcome the reality of a shrinking job market. A shrinking young professional brain drain accelerates the decline. College-educated residents in their 20s and 30s are leaving for Austin, Dallas, or Houston at unprecedented rates. Marshall's median age has climbed to 39.8 as the community ages without replacement. Commercial real estate vacancy rates tell the brutal truth about Marshall's economic health. Downtown vacancy sits at 40%, with storefronts that once housed thriving businesses now displaying dusty for lease signs. When nearly half your commercial district sits empty, the writing's on the wall. The troubling reality is that communities with seemingly stronger economic foundations are starting to show similar warning signs. Lufkin built its identity around 2 pillars that seemed recession-proof: timber and healthcare. The East Texas timber capital boasted lumber mills that had operated for generations, while regional medical centers provided stable employment that kept families rooted in the community. But when both industries face simultaneous upheaval, the housing market gets caught in a devastating crossfire. Lumber mill closures have gutted the local economy, with major operations shuttering permanently rather than modernizing aging facilities. These closures eliminated over 600 high-paying jobs that averaged $55,000 to $75,000 annually, positions that supported not just individual families, but entire supply chains of local businesses. When the mills close, everyone from truck drivers to equipment suppliers feels the impact. Healthcare consolidation compounds the crisis. Hospital mergers designed to cut costs have eliminated hundreds of local positions, from administrative staff to specialized medical roles. When your regional medical center becomes a satellite facility managed from Houston or Dallas, the good-paying healthcare jobs that anchored middle-class neighborhoods simply disappear. Home inventory has surged 60% since early 2024, flooding the market with properties that few can afford to buy. Builder confidence has plummeted accordingly, with new construction permits dropping 45% year over year. Why build homes when existing inventory sits unsold for months? Real estate agents report showing houses to families who qualify for financing, but worry about job security in a community where major employers keep downsizing. The uncertainty is paralyzing buyer decision-making and creating a stagnant market. What's happening in these smaller Texas cities isn't happening in isolation. It's exposing fundamental vulnerabilities that threaten the entire state's housing market stability. Tyler should be the exception to this story. Known as the Rose Capital of America, this East Texas city boasts a major regional medical center, decent employment diversity, and a reputation for stability that attracted families fleeing bigger city problems. But even Tyler is showing cracks that suggest nowhere in Texas is truly immune from the housing market pressures reshaping the state. Insurance costs are rising 40% annually, hitting homeowners with premium increases that turn affordable monthly payments into budget-busting expenses. A typical homeowner's policy that cost $1,800 in 2022 now runs $2,500 or more, with no end to the increases in sight. When insurance eats up an extra $700 annually, it prices out marginal buyers and strains existing homeowners. New construction permits have dropped 25% since 2023, signaling builder hesitation even in what's considered one of East Texas's more stable markets. Days on market have doubled from an average of 35 days in 2023 to over 70 days today, showing that even in Tyler, buyers are becoming more selective and cautious. Investor confidence is wavering as real estate professionals watch smaller surrounding cities struggle. When Lufkin, Marshall, and Palestine show distress signals, smart money starts questioning whether Tyler's stability is real or just a temporary illusion. Some investors who bought rental properties during the pandemic boom are now quietly listing them, preferring to take profits while they still can. The warning signs in Tyler matter because this city was supposed to be different. If the Rose Capital can't maintain housing market momentum, it raises serious questions about the entire Texas housing recovery story.